So we are, as Matt said, we're actually a $30 billion business. All right, do it manually. I promise to be quick. $30 billion business, 280,000 people. In the UK alone, we're £2.5 billion and 10,000 people. So that's the sort of scale. And we do management and technology consulting and outsourcing. Those are our big things. The reason for the FTSE sign is our target group is the FTSE boardroom. We sell largely to the boardrooms of the FTSE 100 and major government departments. So that's the sort of scale of our business. That's this is the slide of me. The reason I say about me, and there is a picture of me somewhere to frighten you all, is actually I spent 25 years now in the technology industry. So I grew up with mobile. The changes that the first speaker Michael talked about, I was part of. One of my big clients then was Motorola. I was all the way back in the year 2000 with Motorola at a big congress talking about personalization and localization. So mobile, I get, and as I say, for some reason I've focused it around cultural organizations. So I'll keep going, but if at any point it gets just a little bit off beam, apologies. We do a lot of sponsorship and work in these areas with these organisations. In particular, things on the other slide, one of the big things we do is use them as showcases for our technology. So with the National Theatre, we've done a huge amount of work around innovation, the big screen they have, but also consumer analytics. We offer our services free, basically, to these audiences as part of our sponsorship to help them become better organisations, more in tune with their customers and more able to deliver. We also have a huge mobile practice. We have 1,000 people in India and 200 people in the UK focused on building mobile apps for large corporations. Not consumer apps where you play Angry Birds, so not them, although we have just bought a design agency that helped build the Angry Birds app in the first place, but the big ones that RBS or others push. And the truth about mobile is actually not really about mobile. That's a device. It's about digital. Once you digitize anything, then you have a whole choice of devices, some of which are mobile. So, as I looked at the impact of it on culture, because of course I did it from a different angle, I looked at actually the impact of digital technologies and breaking down that physical barrier. Today, if you want to go and experience any kind of culture, you have to go and see it or touch it or be in there. And increasingly, digital technologies are democratizing, to sort of steal an earlier, the access to a whole range of cultural activities, theatre, film, etc., making them more available more widely. So examples that many of you might know, National Theatre, if you can't get down to London, there's now NT Live, and you can watch the plays in cinemas. The Tate have put almost all, through BT's kind work, all of their galleries online. So you're getting access beyond what you previously would have done in the physical environment, but you all know this, which is why most of you are building apps for it. Increasingly those barriers are breaking down, but it's not just about enabling access, it's also about expanding understanding. You're right, 20 seconds is a long time when you're reaching. It extends reach into cinemas, but actually it enhances the experience. There's a huge growth in galleries around many cultural organisations using mobile as the device now by which you experience even the physical environment. So you can go along to many art galleries now and use augmented reality to scan the pictures, and you get the whole history of that picture on your mobile. I mean, that's real, it's now, and as long as you've got the right app, then you can do that today using your camera phone. And we haven't yet built those, but the organisations we're working with are looking at it. And then the final one is, it occurred to me whether there was a point at which I guess the mobile will become art in itself, and mobile devices and pyramids and statues, and I guess part of the sort of the stuff you're doing is mobile as art. It is mobile as an interactive part of the issue. But I think one of the big issues, and I would imagine this is where all the developers, you've got Dennis on board, you're approaching large organisations. One of the biggest problems ever in mobile development is that funding gap. The clever ideas which need to be incubated in a certain way to become clever and unique, but also need big money behind them to reach a market. And the device convergence is getting more and more. The one thing no one really talked about is I guess because they're not that mobile, is TV. But actually, the number of devices will morph and change. As you mentioned, Google Glass will become a sort of whole new device. But what I wanted to spend the last little bit is looking at the inhibitors, I guess. One of the big inhibitors to the mobile device, that all the apps you're doing, is the bandwidth issue. There's no point having all of these clever apps and all of these interactivity if it runs like a pig with three legs. And actually in many parts of the country, even 3G still isn't embedded. And so there's an incumbency on quite a lot of the infrastructure players to build out those networks, to provide that infrastructure, and for all of the app development and all of the clever stuff you do. If you're in a stadium that doesn't have Wi-Fi, you're screwed. And so there's a huge amount of stepping up that these guys need to do, and many of them, to be fair, are doing it because there's a real money in it. The other real player is the government. There are whole issues, as we all know, in this area around data privacy. There are whole areas around policy and regulation, around that bandwidth as well, that the government needs to grasp and understand, but also a little bit about funding and about how government supports the growth of these small organisations. And I think there's also a need, and I get back to my theme, which is unique to the evening, of what the cultural organisation need to do is they need to have the vision to do a little bit more in this space, because I don't think at the moment some of them are thinking beyond what is easily doable very cheaply today, and I think there's more that can be done. And that's it, really. Apologies as it went off-piste, but I will take questions on the original theme, which is what we're seeing in mobile and how that's changing the world. Thank you.